I'm the founder of Qureeus, and at Qureeus our focus is on evoking curiosity and inspired learning. So the current scenario of schools is that we are stuck in an era of chalk and talk, where there is very little engagement between students and teachers. But across the world is what we are seeing a shift. A massive shift from not just from teaching, but to facilitating learning. From the classroom to the flipped classroom. From the standard classroom in a lecture in a college to a MOOC, so to say, which I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of. So there's this massive transition happening from one-size-fits-all approach to personalized learning, where students are now getting empowered to follow their direction and channel of learning. I have had my fair share of experiences with learning and education. While at IIT, I wrote a book on mental ability for NTSE. Turned out to be a reasonably good book, where I got a lot of experiences from students, from parents, and their expectations. Thereafter, I started a company called WebOword, which was into visual vocabulary. We got a great amount of traction in the US in the autistic community, but then we failed to actually make any revenues in India. We tried selling to schools in the format of DVDs, textbooks, workbooks, everything possible, but then no school bought it. That was a hard learning there. We finally shut down. More recently, I was working with Akash Institute in developing two of their digital products. One was Akash iTutor, another was Akash iSmart. Along with both of those products, I was also heading the Akash Foundation's division. So there, I had this massive insight where while interacting with students and their parents, it used to repeatedly come out that why can't we have something which is personalized, which is exciting? So Akash iTutor is a tablet-based learning product where students could see videos, could do a lot of lesson content, could do a certain set of exercises. And that is still the de facto method of learning. What we are trying to do right now at Qureeus is create systems wherein this entire system takes in a more personalized form, more exciting form, because that is something that always came back from teachers, parents, and students, that why can't we have something which is fun? Why can't we learn in a manner which is exciting? So towards this end, we created a first app called Pocket Science, which was targeted for class 10 CBSE students last year. In November, 15 November, we launched this. And it had 3 games: anagrams, crosswords, and compete. Anagrams was basically jumbled up alphabets for answers for a given question. Crosswords was basically trying to explore concepts beyond the textbook. And compete was a zone where students basically competed on a global leaderboard. So students from India, from Middle East, from Nepal, etc., who were studying in CBSE curriculum came on, submitted scores. And basically what we were trying to experiment here and establish is that is there a demand for such a product, first of all. So these are the stats that we achieved from November 15 to mid-Feb, rather end Feb. There were 1,000 questions which I attempted over 3 lakh times. Cumulative usage, so engagement time of over 25,000 minutes. 4,000 plus downloads. This was in March 2014. More recently, it's exceeded 5,000. Total scores submitted to compete were 1,500 plus. Now they've exceeded 1,600. Repeat usage, almost 60%. A couple of responses from students. So interestingly, we had very interesting insights while we shared this app with students and their parents. Parents came back and said, I didn't know that the student is actually spending so much time on the phone and not playing Candy Crush. I would pay anything to you for this kind of a scenario. So now what we are moving on to is actually monetizing the content that we have built. So all the content has been built in-house, and now we're trying to monetize it, build a lot more engagement into the app. So how we are doing that is creating discussion forums within the application. So students used to come back and ask us questions relevant to their classroom, relevant to their curriculum, even beyond the curriculum via email. Now we are trying to institutionalize that inside the app. Also increase the virality. So now, earlier it was just students competing on a global leaderboard. Many students came back and asked us, can we compete with our friends? So that's what we are doing right now. And all the user acquisition was purely organic, which we are now trying to actually churn over via Facebook, Google, etc. These are a few insights into the future. We just started off with science in class 10th, looking at expanding to both lower classes, senior classes. And we are raising around 1 crore, basically to improve the team size and accelerate the content and the app development. Thanks.
So, I think at that time you were just about getting the downloads going. I looked at that number. How do you feel about that 4,000 downloads, and is that up to your expectations?
So in terms of expectations, what we originally started off with was only targeting 1,000 downloads, at least when we started off, because class 10 science, it was one very narrow niche, and then it was just a segment of so many classes where we just chose 10th. Right. Now, when we hit 4,000, the critical realization was that students want something like this. So, am I very satisfied? Probably yes, probably no. because I would have preferred 10,000, maybe a lakh downloads.
Right.
But that's obviously, this is where we are.
So what's your target for the next 12 months?
So next 12 months, we're looking at downloads of exceeding 20,000 downloads, but it's going to be across classes. So you're developing content for 10th, 9th, and 8th.
Okay. And you know, in terms of the sell, are you appealing to parents? Are you appealing to kids directly? Are you appealing to teachers? How are you getting into the life of the student?
So currently, we are being directly, organically downloaded by the student. There is no interaction or interruption by, say, by the teacher or the parent, right? But the sell actually has to happen to the parent, right? So that is still the challenge that we are facing, that how do we reach out to the parent from the student? Right now what happens is the student uses it, enjoys it, continues using it consistently, but then there is no upsell directly to the parent.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, does the motivation to learn from the offline to a mobile app, does that change in any way?
I would say massively, because currently students are now so engaged with their mobile phones, right? WhatsApp, Facebook have actually made them stick onto a mobile app. And what we are seeing recently is that students are very easily shifting over to an app model rather than to an e-learning model. So we saw earlier, even at Akash, we used to see that students did not come over to a platform and say, give a test. But the same thing on the phone used to be something which is very trivial. They would come over, take a test, go back, and that's not a friction anymore.
But it's the same already pre-motivated student who's going to shift the medium, or is it going to be, the rest of the class as well that is going to start using or start learning more than before?
I would mention something very interesting here, because one of the students I mentioned, Dhruvi Gupta, right? She turned out to be an average student. She brought in the top students of a school just for the app. Since she enjoyed competing and she was not in the top, she said, okay, let my school come in. We gave out prizes last year. Many students from her school, both not so good and then the best, came onto the app just because of one average student. So it has been appealing to everyone, so to say.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.